Hello, Stolen Cousins. I just deleted the best, like, little introduction thing, and my appreciation to you guys for us reaching 1,000 followers and so much. But it's still being uploaded right now as we speak, so you guys still will get to see it. Other than that, let's get right into it. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. We reached 1,000 followers. Woo woo woo! Woo woo woo! It was so much better in the last video, but it's okay. We reached 1,000 subscribers, guys. We did it. I love you guys so much, and I appreciate you guys so much. That being said, you already know what time it is. Stolen Cousins. What's today? A holiday. So what we doing? Finding the horror stories to go with that holiday. Yes, sir. 7 unsettling Easter horror stories, animated. Who is doing this? Martin Animations. You know that's a homie. Why? Because we subscribe. Like y'all be doing. That's why we're at 1,000. That's why I love y'all. Let's get right into it because we already had to start over. You see, we're 35 seconds in.
So this happened about a week ago around the
All
same
because
time,
I was trying to make sure that
2 a.m.
we could hear
Just a
each
bit of
other.
background.
A lot,
I live in
too
the
much.
UK and go to uni. I live in a...
Get your waters, get your blunts, get your snacks, get your blankets. Okay? It was rushed because I did it all in the last video, all happy and joyful. I love you guys so much. Let's get into it.
fairly typical student house,
He's at uni.
though in a bad area. Anyway, it's the Easter holidays here and we get 2 weeks off. There's
Y'all get
7
2
of us in the
weeks.
house usually, but everyone's gone home for the holidays. I don't have a lot of family and I have a ridiculous amount of work to do, so I decided to stay here for Easter. Now I don't care when I say this, but I hate being alone. Every little fucking noise at night still freaks me out, and I'm 22 fucking years old. Anyway, yesterday I set up camp in the living room, doing some work with headphones in. There's a door from the living room that leads to the backyard, really small yard with another door leading to a small alley. I go out for a smoke down the alley, which is creepy as fuck.
Why are you
get
smoking?
that.
You so damn
But do
scary.
you know that feeling of something's wrong here? I felt it. I was thinking I was just being paranoid, so I walked into the kitchen, got a drink. Then I definitely heard a fucking noise. I grab a knife out of the drawer. There's a fucking shadow near the empty space where the old washing machine was. I fucking nearly pissed myself. I don't know what to do. Don't know why I did, but I threw some kitchen towel at him. He fucking screamed, banged his head on the wood.
No, he
He
didn't.
was standing there with a knife
Oh,
and this
no,
guy
he didn't.
looked at me dead in the eyes. He had some crazy contact lenses in, like blood red ones. Just fucking made the situation even more terrifying. I just said, get the fuck out, or I'll call the police, as I'm sitting there shaking with my knife in hand. He ran out through the door, into the alleyway, and fucked off. I rang the police and told them about what had happened.
As you should.
Completely forgot about the washing machine space. Showed the police where he came in. There was a fucking bag with 3 knives, lighter fluid, and matches.
He's gonna kill y'all
Honestly,
and burn y'all bitches
I
down.
have no idea what he intended to do.
Killing y'all and
I'm
burning the
glad
house down.
He didn't get the chance.
What's that?
I hadn't thought about this for a while until just now when an animal charity put an alert out on Facebook. So April last year, I had thought about getting 2 rabbits to accompany my other 2.
That's
The
cute.
2 I had already were neutered females, so I was looking for neutered males. The rabbit's social hierarchy, lifelong buddies, etc.
Aw.
I was looking on Gumtree for an exercise pen to attach to the one we had already so that, if we did get more bunnies, once bounded there'd be a bigger space for them when they weren't out during the day. So I found an advert for one, clicked it, and saw the owner was also putting her rabbits up for adoption. It had been one of those dumb things. Her kid daughter had been excited for Easter, Mom bought her some rabbits. Rabbits didn't want to be picked up. Kid made them nervous, eventually becomes bored of them because they're not like toy rabbits. It's an unfortunate common story. Anyway,
Why
I
are you
called
getting
him
your
up,
kids
asked about
rabbits
the
for
exercise
Easter?
pen and the rabbits, and we arranged to meet the next day when the seller's able to arrange to take the morning off work. The next day, she met me off the train in her town. More like a village, really. It was relatively small, and we walked to her house. She was a really nice lady, and she had a Belfast accent. This is all happening just outside of Glasgow, by the way, and as an English immigrant to Scotland, it was just nice to hear a different accent. On the way, she started telling me about after I had called her. Her phone had said she had 15 missed calls. About a minute after we'd arranged to meet, her phone rang again, and a man with a thick Irish traveler accent had started talking about getting the rabbits from her without even saying hello. When he'd taken a minute to breathe, she explained that she already had someone coming to see them, and that if it didn't work out, she'd let them know. He sounded angry when she'd said that, and sworn before he hung up on her. Anyway,
now you ain't getting them.
The exercise pen is exactly what I want, and then I meet the bunnies and fall in love with them. She asked me if I'd like to give them a new home, and I agree. Not just because of how lovely and sociable they were with me within a few minutes of meeting them, but because they were a bonded pair, and I couldn't stand the thought of them being separated at a shelter. I mean, it was just after Easter, and then in Christmas are the worst time for spaces and shelters. Because I was also taking the rabbits back with me, she was kind enough to drive me back to my flat with everything. Later on that day, around 6 p.m., I get a call from her. When she had dropped off me and the rabbits back at my flat, she had gone straight to work. When she had gotten home, she found her daughter being comforted by the babysitter. She thought she was probably just upset that the rabbits had gone. But no. Her daughter had answered a knock at the door while the babysitter was making dinner.
Oh, hell no.
A big guy in scruffy clothes had looked down at her and asked if she had any rabbits. She said she did have, but they moved house today and the guy's smile turned angry. He started shouting, and he pounded his fist at the door.
At the baby?
The babysitter came running. The babysitter said there was a white transit van parked outside, and there were 2 other guys in there. The man's accent was Irish and distinctively traveler. Turns out that when she posted the ad for the exercise pen, it had been from her phone, and Gumtree automatically added her street location on the little map thing next to the username.
That's disrespectful.
She had posted a separate ad for the rabbits in the pets for sale section, which I hadn't seen, and that's how they'd found the house. It's a small street in a suburb, so even with the map location, it wasn't a very long street, and they could have easily knocked on the other 5 or 6 doors on the street. The babysitter had called the police after she forced the door shut. These guys are apparently always being spotted in small news agents calling people about dogs for sale. They've been arrested before for organizing dog fights and stealing dogs and rabbits for people's gardens. It was only when I saw a charity on Facebook send out an alert about some Irish chaps in a corner shop holding the classifieds open and ringing about a dog near Perth that I remembered. I guess they move around a lot. Perth's quite far from Glasgow. To think there are such greedy, heartless people driving around, stealing and buying dogs to fight, and taking rabbits to give the dogs a taste for blood for the fight.
That's
to the point of shouting at a kid because they have no bait for their dogs on one of the most peaceful holidays of the year. That is creepy as hell.
They do that with kittens, too.
This was about 8 or 10 years ago, but it's the only post-worthy thing I can think of that ever happened to me. Growing up, my family wasn't exactly middle class. We lived in a shitty trailer. The area we lived in looked alright. The yards were mowed and everything was taken care of. But anyways, it was about a week or 2 before Easter, and I fell asleep watching television. I woke up a couple of hours later, probably around 1 or 2 a.m., and the front door was open. I figured my stepdad had stepped outside for a smoke and just forgot to close the door when he came back in. So I went ahead and closed it and went back to the couch and went back to bed without thinking anything about it. Looking back now, I feel like an idiot for not locking the door. I was awoken again about an hour later to a lot of yelling, and it was my stepdad going off. In the entire time I've known him, I've never heard him yell or anything till this night, and I haven't since. But someone had just walked into our house off the street and had been staring at me while I was sleeping, according to what my stepdad told me.
Well, who left
From what
the
I
door
saw,
open
he was
anyway?
fairly skinny and had long hair. He chased the guy out, and to this day, we still have no idea who it was. All I know is about 5 months after this incident, one of our neighbors got busted for having a meth lab in their basement. But still, ever since this happened, I don't go to sleep without locking my door or setting the alarm I have installed in the house I am currently in.
That wasn't his fault, though. Who had the door wide open?
This past Easter, my dad, a pilot for a cargo shipping company, was in town and offered to take me across the inlet for a nice dinner. As his co-pilots were away from their families, they were also invited to join, and gladly did. While I waited for them to validate their tickets in the ferry terminal, I spotted an unlikely duo standing by the door. 2 guys, late 20s at most, one large and oafish, the other shorter and movie star gorgeous. I looked just in time to see Oaf nod in my direction, and movie star make a face that can only be described as, meh, I'd fuck her after a few beers. They stood close to us in the terminal.
Ew.
Keep in mind, this ferry carries hundreds of people at a time, and I told my dad about the nod. He laughed and continued talking to his co-pilots next to us. Every time I looked over, movie star was already looking at me. I shook my head. We sat on opposite ends of the ferry. Oaf and movie star debarked before us. I was glad they were gone. We walked up the street from the terminal to the restaurant, and when I turned back to take in the view of the city across the water, was surprised to find the duo had somehow ended up behind us and were slowly walking up the street.
He ain't even got no shoes on, Dad. Come on now.
It was a busy area and lots of pubs were around. I did think
How
about
did
it
you
more
think
when they
nothing of
walked
it?
by the restaurant, peering intently into the front window where we were standing waiting for a table. They smiled, exchanged words with each other, and kept moving. I let out a sigh of relief until they walked back by from the opposite direction. They stopped. They leaned on a bike rack in front of the restaurant a few more times and left. Movie star stared over his shoulder the whole time. Over dinner, I informed my father and his co-pilots of the events that transpired without them even realizing. They laughed about it and eventually had me laughing about it too. We never seen the pair of guys again.
No.
3 hours later, as we waited for the return ferry.
If you feel unsafe and you tell people, do not let them have you laugh it off. Talk about something and then I ended up laughing it off. No, you did not end up laughing about it. They made you feel so uncomfortable to the point, and so uncomfortable and so unheard to the point where you were like, well, let me just laugh for them to think that I don't care anymore. If you feel unsafe, if you feel some type of way, please take it serious. If you have a gut feeling and everybody around you don't have that gut feeling, don't worry about them. Worry about you. That's your gut. That means something's going on with you, not them. Talk about something, then I laugh. You did not laugh, baby girl. You can laugh out of nervousness. You probably feel deep in your core that, it's not that serious. No. Your brain and your heart knows. It is that serious. Someone better take this serious.
Seen the pair of guys again. 3 hours later, as we waited for the return ferry, I was talking to our company, recounting a story from earlier at dinner, when I spotted Oaf and movie star over my dad's shoulder.
Look at that.
Was looking my way. Scratch that. Staring. I quickly informed the guys. They were shocked and kept looking back at the pair.
Don't be shocked now.
There was a
We done
miniature
seen them
showdown
4
in the ferry
times.
terminal as each party stared each other down from opposite ends. As the ferry returned, the men were apprehended by security and taken away in handcuffs by local authorities. When we asked around, apparently the men were spotted pickpocketing multiple people throughout the night. Thank God I kept my eyes on them, because I knew for a fact they had their thieving eyes on us.
Okay. So you just looked like you had money when you did the head nod.
We were relatively new to the neighborhood at this time. having only lived there for a few months. We were getting to know people on the street, but we weren't super close with any particular family. I was 12 or so at the time, and my brother was 4. Now this happened on early Easter Sunday morning. This is important. My room had a huge window right next to my bed, so my dog loved sleeping with me. He was a very docile dog, rarely ever barking or making a fuss. I woke up that morning very early in the morning to him growling. I looked out the window and didn't see anything, so I assumed all was well and tried to go back to sleep. My dog, however, kept growling louder until he was finally barking like a maniac. That's when I realized there were 2 men in my driveway, climbing up the front stairs to our doorway wearing all black. My father came barreling into my room and screamed at these guys through my window to get the fuck off his property, and asking them who the fuck they thought they were creeping around our house so early in the morning. One of them responded, and my dad couldn't really hear them. He yelled at them again, and finally he understood what he was saying.
It's Sam and Joe! We're being the Easter Bunny!
Sam and Joe were a father and son from down the street who liked to put flower bunny prints on people's driveways and front walks, leading up to a basket of candy at the doorway for any children in the home. They didn't inform us that they were going to be skulking around our house early in the morning, which thus led to my dog flipping out. They did it every year I lived there, although I think they stopped once my brother turned 13. They are a really great family, and my dog never barked again. Just, holy hell.
Like, that's cute, but like, come on now.
Nice. I'm a 26-year-old girl that lives alone in a basement apartment with my dog. Last Easter, my dog was only about 3 months old at the time. I took her out to do her thing before going to bed. This was around 1:30 a.m. We went to the yard. Pitch black. Streetlights are kind of far away, so the only light out was from people's windows. She's doing her thing, and I'm talking to her. I look up and look into my neighbor's yard. No fence, just 2 medium-sized trees are between our yards. And I see this tall man. I'm guessing around 2 meters tall. The guy is around 3 to 4 meters away from me and just stands there and stares.
Stared?
All of a sudden, he starts walking from the yard towards the street. I do the same. My front door was open, didn't want to risk anything. When I come to my door, I see the guy. He stands in front of my neighbor's house and he just stares back. I stood there for about 2 minutes, just trying to see what the fuck he was doing. Then he starts walking up the stairs of the house, and it looks like he's going in.
So your neighbors?
At that point, I decide that I just have a creepy neighbor and go into my apartment. I sit down on the couch and continue watching television. Then I start seeing someone blocking a beam of light that comes in through my curtains. And again, it gets blocked. It was like someone was walking in my yard. I mute the TV, but hear nothing. The weather was very cold, so the grass was crispy. I stand up and lift my curtains up. Note that I live in a basement. And there he is. Our faces couldn't have been more than a foot away from each other, on opposite sides of the window. I managed to keep my cool.
You bending over? Staring? In the windows?
Stood up and walked slowly away in the crispy grass.
No.
And back into my neighbor's yard. I eventually freaked out and called the cops. And now, maybe 1 month ago, I'm watching TV with the dog. All of a sudden, she starts growling. Hairs on the back go up and teeth showing. There he was again. Same window. I called the police again, but there's very little they could do besides talking to him. Now, I always have the curtains down. I have a security system and always take a flashlight with me to the yard if it's dark.
I hate their rules on creeps.
I had just gotten out of a really shitty relationship with a guy I'd been living with for 3 years. He was a really pretty boy who looked like Johnny Depp, but he liked to steal all my money while I was at work and throw crazy parties. I got tired of his stealing and coming home to emo kids asleep all over my house, so I left him. I didn't want anything but my stuff, and I let him keep the house and cars I bought him. I just wanted my sanity back. I moved back in with my granny. I'm her favorite grandchild, and she spoiled me as she does.
That's why you gave that man a house and freaking cars. You sound dumb as hell.
I was hanging out with Chris on my back porch one morning when the subject of boys gets brought up. Chris is gay, and we often talk about boys together. He asked if I was seeing anybody, and I tell him that I'm not. It had only been a few months since I left the money leech, and I didn't think I was ready to trust anyone. Chris said that he knew the perfect man for me. I said that I don't think there is such a thing. He begs me to go meet this guy. I reluctantly sigh and tell my granny that I'm going on an adventure with Chris. We talked as we drove, and he tells me that this guy has been in love with me since we were kids. He told me it was this little boy, Quinn, that used to follow me around. I told him that I thought Quinn was a lot younger than us. He told me that Quinn is just short like me. He called Quinn and told me to talk to him. I do, and he seems really sweet, but a little airheaded. We show up at his house, and he's really pretty. He was also very sweet, has a good job, his own car, and owns his own company. We start hanging out a lot and eventually started dating. He buys me presents like nice jewelry and Prada sunglasses. He told me his girl only deserved the best. I told him I couldn't accept all these gifts, but he would just dump them in my car or purse when I wasn't looking, so I just learned to take them. He wanted to always call me and talk for hours.
He's
stealing? He wanted me to call when I got home from his house. I thought he was sweet and just wanted to be sure I got home safely. The reality set in rather quickly. He introduced me to his entire family within a couple of days of us dating. I usually don't introduce guys to my family until we're serious, but whatever. Upon meeting his mother, I learned that it's her house and he lives there with her. I also learned that he has no job other than doing odd jobs for his dad. I was speechless. He also lied about being my age. I was 24 at the time.
How old is he?
He had just turned 18 like the day or so before we started dating. I was so upset I didn't know how to feel. He begs me not to leave him and to take him to my play rehearsal the next day.
What are you talking about?
He showed up in my driveway just as I was leaving for the theater. Chris drove him there and tells me we need to sort our shit out. He said if Quinn was gay,
Chris, come on now.
I'd be all over him, not to leave him over a few small lies.
Boy!
The drive is awkward. I don't want to talk to this guy. I want him gone, I'm thinking in my mind. He pulls out a diamond ring and tries to propose to me. I tell him no,
you fucking
but he
child.
slaps the rock on my finger anyway. He
That's
tells
not
me
how
I need
this
to just
works.
think about it. I go to the theater and shit just goes downhill from there. He embarrassed me in front of my friends with his ignorance and childness, and threw a bitch fit because my other best friend, Mikey, gave me a piggyback ride. He storms out, and then his mother started calling to check up on him. I decided right then and there it was done. After rehearsal,
Girl, you decided the other day that you were done.
Home. I tried to give his ring back, but he wouldn't take it. I leave and go to a bar with my fellow actors. I told him that was why I had to take him home so early. Driving back, I see flashing lights in my rearview mirror and hear yelling. Chris and Quinn are following me. I pull into the bar and Chris throws Quinn and myself at each other and yells that we need to talk. I break up with Quinn right then and there.
Like, Chris, stop being so fucking ignorant,
I walk
bro.
into the bar with my friend. I spend the night at Mikey's for a few days. When I return home, I have tons of harassing phone calls. He called me and my grandparents every few hours. He even had Chris help. Everywhere I went, he was there. He stalked me at home, made me run from a theater during a movie, and followed my car. Chris helped him do all of this as well. He even pulled a gun on my family while we were outside during Easter.
I thought he was your
helping the
friend.
little kids hunt eggs. He cruised by several times and then pulled his gun. He creeped by with his gun and pointed it directly at us. I was terrified, and I had no idea what to think. I filed a restraining order that day. I moved in with Mikey so he would leave my grandparents alone. I went nowhere without at least 2 guys with me at all times. I thought at any minute he would come and kill me. I felt hunted like a deer in the woods. But I was lucky though. I come to find out, he shot up the car of his next girlfriend while her 2-year-old was inside. Damn, was I lucky.
How'd he even get a girlfriend acting like that?
Christmas of 2016 was the most horrifying and worst day of my life. My cousin was hosting a huge house party, really a Christmas party to celebrate the holiday on Christmas Eve. All of his friends, some of my friends, and almost the whole family were there Christmas Eve. My cousin was hosting.
I'm sorry, boo. This is Easter. Yep, okay. He. I'm sorry, guys. You don't gotta keep the Easter things. We're about to do Easter, Christmas at the end. I'm sorry, boo boo. This is a Easter animated horror story. It's creepy shit. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I enjoyed it. Cause what? Y'all be acting up like this on Easter? Easter? Come on now. Y'all gotta do better. Thank you guys for joining me. And yes, until next time, you guys, I love you. Bye-bye.